Oh, greetings, peeps. This is Lisa Parker, your stopping specialist for ambitious women. I am just trying to go live. Greetings, peeps. This is Lisa Parker, your stopping specialist for ambitious women. I am just trying to go live before it is no longer July 1st on the West Coast of the United States. So here's hoping that I don't fall asleep before I get done. But today, just wanted to talk to y'all about art. And the reason I wanted to do this is because you might not think that you're an artist, but I'm here to challenge that. And there's more than one way to think about art. And I think that being able to keep the idea that your life is art, no matter what you're doing, being able to keep that idea kind of in your heart and in your actions as you choose what to do is very important, especially in times like these. And I'm looking to the left because my outline is there. Keep me from rambling because I am very close to that level of fatigue. Since I'm on the east coast of the U.S. and it's 1:30 in the morning right now, I tend to be a late bird, but this is later than I anticipated. Uh, but I am almost to the point where I start speaking in gibberish. So stick around. You might hear me say something crazy. Hopefully, I don't do anything too bonkers, too offensive to anyone. I apologize in advance if my id brain runs away with me. But anyway, the topic for tonight, art. Your life is art. Um, Let me ask something. For anyone who sees this, what is something that you've created or improved lately? Okay, even if it doesn't feel like art to start with, lately. Okay, even if it doesn't feel like art to start with. So, want to understand that, set my timer, that your definition of art might be too small. That is often a problem that people have. That as they're thinking about their life, that their definition of art is going to be only things that you would typically think of as an artistic pursuit. That you're only creating art if you're dancing, or if you're playing an instrument, or if you're making sculpture, or if you're singing opera, something like that. There's a quote from Martha Graham: art is anything that moves the human spirit. Okay, art is anything that moves the human spirit. And I always want people to think that anything that you're doing, anything that you're doing that makes your life or someone else's life better, that is art. Anything that's pushing the boundaries of what people think can exist, that's art. Anything that helps you or other people be more compassionate to the human experience, that is all art. All of those things are art. And so some examples might be if you're a caregiver in any role in your life, if you are doing anything to help heal other people, if you work in medicine or healing or Reiki or anything like that, then that is an art form. If you are really good at making spreadsheets or making automations and you're making a business run more smoothly, whether it's yours or someone else's, that is definitely art. If you're helping people through conflict resolution, whether that's yourself and the conflicts that you find yourself professionally, if you're coaching others, whether it's in a sport or in uh, kind of as a holistic life coach, or if you're coaching people in relationships, kind of all of those things can be uh, parts of living out your art. Hello, Wanda. Hello, everyone. And I apologize. I'm not the greatest at like looking down to see who's here, but I appreciate anyone who's watching. Um, if you're good at organizing, whether that's organizing a space or a home or organizing people, that is a form of art. If you're a good cook or a baker, that is definitely a form of art. If you're doing your own inner work, if you're being more compassionate to self, if you're peeling away the layers of crap that keep you from being what you're meant to be, what you're called to be, that is your own artwork. All those things and many more are all different forms of art that you might be engaging in. And so, let me see. For myself, kind of when I first started to realize that what I was doing was art, let me back up a little bit. So back when I was in junior high and high school, from 6th through 12th grade, I played trombone. And I was in concert band and marching band. And so that was kind of my main artistic outlet. Um, and I'm such a geek that when I got my letter jacket in high school, I actually got a double letter. I got a letter for being in band and also for being on academic team. So I'm definitely a geek. Um, but as I got older and as I stopped playing trombone, I realized that I really missed that part of my life. And also, I had been in the drama department in high school, um, officially for a year, but had a lot of friends that kind of helped with some offstage things, even past that. So I went from being in high school, especially, and having very defined idea of what my art was and what my artistic pursuits were, to then being in college and having no clue what my artistic pursuits were because I didn't really pursue either of those. Wasn't doing anything musical, wasn't doing anything with acting or with crew, and eventually became a business major in college and realized that I really liked building spreadsheets and automations. I really liked, I am not someone who does well with structure, but I need structure. Uh, my ADHD brain, which I didn't get diagnosed until my early 40s, but I realized much later, like 20 years later, that structure is very important for me and that if I can create structure for myself and I can help other people create structures that actually work, especially for those of us that have neurodivergent brains, I realized that helped me tap into something that I hadn't felt since I put my trombone down and since I put my scripts down and my crew scripts down. That it helped me tap into when I can help create structure, whether in my coaching programs or, back end structure when it comes to softwares and spreadsheets and databases and all that stuff, that it creates what I love about it is that I am creating pathways that make it easier for people to relate to others because none of the structure that I create, whether even if it's with one of my one-on-one coaching clients, but especially in like a group coaching program or if I'm making a spreadsheet or I'm making a database, all of those things allow the people using them to be able to use their bandwidth on things that are more helpful. And so by me making structures that work, that is a little piece of what I can do to help make a more compassionate world. Because if people don't get frustrated doing the things that the spreadsheets and the databases help them do, then that gives them more bandwidth that they can then put towards charity or towards advocacy work or towards understanding their own inner path. Anything that I can do to help reduce the need of someone to use their bandwidth in another direction, that gives them more bandwidth to put towards self-compassion and towards compassion of other people. And being able to build that compassion and that resonance with other people what were a lot of the same feelings that I felt when I was in plays or part of stage crew or especially in marching band season or concert band season, or even with academic team. And so those are things that helped me realize the other parts of my life that were my art. And so hopefully that can help inspire some other people to think about what are the points in your life where you are helping to build space for compassion for other people, to build resonance for other people, to help make the world a kinder, gentler, more empathetic place. And all of those things very naturally come from art, and art challenges us to do those things, but you are also engaging in art and making your art, even if you are doing something like cleaning a kitchen or showing compassion to another person or building a spreadsheet or a database. Ah, man, my lips are chapped and I left my water downstairs. Let me have some water. Hopefully my voice can hold out for this time too. Oh my gosh. How's everyone doing tonight? Is everyone staying hydrated? We're in the second half of 2025. Can y'all believe that? I certainly cannot. Where's this year going? And how's the weather in your part of the world? I'm in upstate South Carolina, so pretty much the only time it was not above 90 degrees Fahrenheit today was when it was raining. We got the typical afternoon thunderstorm, which we get every day, and it rains and it looks like the world is going to end for about 20 minutes, and then it ends and it's cooler for a little bit, and then the humidity jacks right back up. So, but I was born in South Carolina, lived away for about 20 years, then came back a few years ago. So at least I'm accustomed to it. So there's that. So, but remember to hydrate wherever you are in the world, even if it's winter for you, make sure you're hydrating right now. Um, the next thing, kind of talking about your art and being able to share your art with the world, is again reminding all of us that art is anything that pushes edges or brings beauty. And so I think especially, in the US and around the world in times like this, especially that big fucking beautiful bills. But anyway, um, there is never a time when humanity is running on such a path that is so clear and so true that there's not a cause for people to be revolutionaries, to be radical, to call for change. We as humans tend to be incredibly tribal, and we tend to draw a very small circle of righteousness around ourselves. So there's always a need. We as humans tend to be incredibly tribal, and we tend to draw a very small circle of righteousness around ourselves. So there's always a need for people to be revolutionary and to widen the circle of empathy that we have around ourselves to include other people, revolutionary, and to widen the circle of empathy that we have around ourselves to include other people that we would be inclined to exclude. And so, because of that, that means that there is always a need for art, and there's always a need for an ever expanding definition of art. Excuse me. And anytime that you can make your work beautiful or more functional or more liberating or healing, and that's for yourself or for anyone else, that is a revolutionary act and that is your art. And so, all sorts of things like the content that you create. Because I know a lot of people on this app, I don't know if you've been seeing a lot of things that I've been seeing, but it seems like TikTok is pushing pretty hard to try to get people to become not just consumers, but also creators. Um, and also, I think as, again, I'm from the US, I've lived here all my life, but as people are kind of concerned about, whether their 9 to 5s are going to hold up, people are looking for different ways to make money, which means that they're looking for different ways to use their gifts in the world and to be able to have a way for art to meet commerce in a way that they can share their revolutionary gifts with the world in a way that they can also get paid for them in a way that feels fair to both the art and the commerce. And even if you're doing things that don't get paid, because art can definitely and should very often be revolutionary without being monetized. And so your art might be raising children, it might be caring for elderly parents or elderly family members, or even elderly community members. Your art may be working to build systems that are more fair and more just and more compassionate. Your art may be building a business or building a side hustle. Your art may be, content creation. Your art may be healing relationships, uh, whether it's your relationship with yourself or it's relationships with other people. Again, all of those things are art, and all of those things are pushing edges and bringing beauty. And something that I have learned to embrace about myself and learned to embrace kind of in my coaching practice is that again, as someone with ADHD, I freaking hate structure, but I really need structure. And once I learned what kind of structures work for me, then that made it so much easier for me to figure out how to create content. And I've spent the last couple of hours working on the structure for me creating content, being able to put more stuff up on this app and the other social media platforms that I'm on, and being able to put stuff out to my email list. Um, excuse me, my throat. I spent time creating systems that help me be able to take better care of my body when it comes to my eating plan or my exercise plan. Spent time creating systems, uh, figuring out how better to run my business. Spent time making systems, organizing my craft supplies. Yeah, I'm going to try to pick up the thing just so you can see. behind me. Um, I will admit it does look a mess, but I've got kind of all of my office. It's kind of business in the front, party over there, with all of my art supplies kind of there where I'm pointing. That's some of my ink pads. I got into card making kind of during COVID lockdowns, and as someone once said, with most hobbies, there are three parts of any hobby. There's collecting the supplies, organizing the supplies, and using the supplies. And this past week, and kind of especially since the inauguration of our current president, I realized that I need to use more of my art to of card making and paper crafting to be able to share love and share positive attention with people. Um, whether I know them well or not. Just trying to spread as much love as I can, which means that I had to dig into that part of my art, the paper crafting, the card making part of my art. But it also means that I have to dig into the art of every aspect of my life as to how I treat my body, as to what I'm consuming, either content wise or food wise or conversation wise, what I'm putting out there as to the content that I'm making, like this live, other things that I'm putting up on excuse me, on social media platforms, or putting out in physical content, looking at, excuse me, oh my gosh, I'm trying to be careful because every year, granted it's typically in November, but when the seasons change, my allergies kick in. And the way they kick in is I start coughing and my asthma gets bad, and then I'll lose my voice for 4 weeks. So I'm trying to be very gentle because things are blooming right now in South Carolina. So I'm trying to make sure that I don't. Usually I lose my voice between like Thanksgiving and Christmas and sometimes into the new year. Sometimes I'll lose it around this time of year too. So that's why I'm stopping so much. But kind of realizing that as I'm trying to build compassion for myself and other people, that I need to engage in my art uh, in very intentional ways, which means that if it's going to be intentional, especially for someone like myself who often would struggle against using any kind of structure because it felt like structure equaled no fun. And if things are not fun, I do not do them. A big thing, here's the hint. If you ever feel that way, if you struggle against creating structure because you feel like it's going to suck all the fun and joy out of your life, something that can help a lot is to structure in your fun first. So I actually have a list in my bedroom of uh, kind of free day activities. Like I went into my schedule and I scheduled a free day, a free half day every month, and a free full day off, at least every quarter. And I scheduled activities that I'm going to do kind of in my community and travel around. Because raise your hand if you have ever been bad about you don't take time off until you collapse or get sick and you're forced to take time off. That has absolutely been me in the past. It's the third thing. So that's one hint. Please, 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 for your own sanity and so that you can keep creating your art, whatever it is, make sure that you are, it might need to be the first thing that you schedule. Schedule your fun. Schedule time to engage in your art. Schedule, schedule time to embrace your creativity. Whether it's just creativity that you keep to yourself and just relish, or whether it's creativity that you spread to the world, make sure you are creating spaces, which means creating some kind of structure to make that happen. Oh, excuse me. Because often, if you don't schedule your fun first, your creativity, your art first, then it won't happen because you're a responsible person. And if you're using too much of your bandwidth, again, to try to put out fires, you're not going to have the bandwidth and the capacity and the spoons to be able to stoke fires within yourself. And you're have the bandwidth and the capacity and the spoons to be able to stoke fires within yourself. And your art, whatever it is, whether it's raising children, whether it's pets, whether it's cooking or baking, it's engaging in your exercise routine, whether it's sending out greeting cards to friends and family or random people, whether it's mowing a lawn really well, whether it's making a really good database, any of those things can be your art. And when you find enjoyment in them, or learning about them, or structuring them, or figuring out how they work, or figuring out how to do them better, you need to make sure that you are stoking your own fire to make sure that you are doing those things. Excuse me. Uh, we'll keep going. We're getting there. We're getting there. Thanks for hanging in with my cracked out voice. I appreciate y'all hanging tough. All right. The next part is as you are looking at your life and as you're looking at your art, something that helps me a lot is that I want to make sure that I'm looking at all the areas of my life so that I can take a true assessment. And so I can see kind of those pockets of my life where my art is taking hold, or the pockets of my life where my art is floundering, maybe dying a little bit, so I can make sure that I kind of invigorate it a little bit more. And so as I look at the different areas of life, different people break these down different ways, but the way that I look at it, I tend to like comprehensive lists. So my list has one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight items on it. And I actually keep this on my desk. It's probably backwards, so I don't know if you can get a screenshot of that. But the 8 areas that I like to look at um, are these. So the first is social. So that is basically kind of how you're relating to other people. How you might be using your art in your social life might be cultivating the art of get-togethers, cultivating the art of dinner parties or PowerPoint parties. Have y'all seen those? Like people getting together to do PowerPoint presentations to each other. Maybe I just spent too long in corporate, but the idea of a PowerPoint party sounds amazing. Um, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be a dinner party. It could be that you are setting up Zoom meetings so that people that like a certain type of book are getting together virtually so that they can discuss that book or pretend that they're discussing the book and just kind of jibber jabber about life in general. So social, looking at your social life and how you can use your art there. The second area is your emotional life. And this is looking more at part of your inner life. So looking at your art of your emotional life might be figuring out how better to name your own emotions within yourself. For example, especially when I was younger, very often if I felt anything unpleasant, I would go straight to describing it as anger, sometimes even as rage. And as I got older and learned more about myself and kind of dug more into my own emotional life, I realized that very often that is just the first emotion. And it's an important emotion, especially for women and those of us socialized as women. Um, and anyone just trying to get in touch with your emotions to realize that when you feel righteous anger, it means that your sense of justice has been pricked and that there may be something that you need to do or some way that you need to move or someone you need to speak for, whether it's yourself or someone else, um, in that something is off. And when you notice that it's off and it triggers that feeling of anger, then very often that is a good time to think, okay, what is making me angry here? And also for me, anger very often is kind of a primary response. And the art for myself has been to learn more about what other emotions may be underneath there. Is there sadness? Am I feeling betrayal? Am I feeling afraid and haven't been able to articulate that? It feels safer to articulate anger. And so even though that is often my own internal work, it is a liberating work and it is an energizing and reinvigorating work. And so, even though it may seem more internal, it still is art. It still helps my own bandwidth and it helps the bandwidth of people that deal with me. Ask anyone who saw me rage out in my 20s. Um, but it helps people that deal with me have more bandwidth because I am less flying off the handle in uncontrollable rages. Um, because I am less flying off the handle in uncontrollable rages. Um, excuse me. So that's your emotional life. The third is your physical life. And so looking at your own physical fitness, looking at what you're eating, what you're taking into your body, looking at how you're moving your physical life. And so looking at your own physical fitness, looking at what you're eating, what you're taking into your body, looking at how you're moving your body. Are you stretching? Are you doing mobility work? Are you taking care of your body? Are you eating and moving your body like you give a fuck? Like that book from like 15, 20 years ago, you know? Um, and the way that can be your art is being able to or here's something. Many, many years ago, I don't know what book it was, but I heard of someone who translated a book and for another language into English, and as kind of a personal challenge, they wanted to do it without using any words that had the letter E, which is wild, but that just is kind of an amazing limit to put on yourself. And as you were trying, and I think very often when people are trying to take care of their physical health, we often think in terms of the limits that we have. Um, I've worked with clients, if they were looking at their physical health, and they maybe, and often they can get caught up in the things that they can't eat, the things that they shouldn't eat. And instead, if you can look at it as a creative endeavor to say, okay, instead of focusing on what I can't eat over here and getting angry or depressed or sad or feeling wistful about those things and feeling like I'm lacking those things, instead let me change my focus to the long and vibrant list of things that I can eat and take on that creative activity of figuring out, okay, with this structure, like that translator who's going to translate this work without using any words with the letter E, how am I going to build meals that I find satiating, meals that give me the right calories, the right macros that fit into the plan that I have for my life? What kind of creative structure can I put around that and use that as my art and use that as a way of treating my body with joy and with love and with compassion? And also, often, I encourage people to look at as you are, you know, treating your body better, whether that's eating fewer calories or more calories, eating more nutritious calories, whatever that looks like for you. Um, whether it's taking on more activity or doing less activity, again, whatever that looks like for you, looking at it as a series of experiments that you are a partner with your body and that you are figuring out kind of what levers do you need to pull when it comes to your own physical fitness and physical vitality to help you maximize this body that you've got. And as you do that and as you engage in that creative endeavor of looking at the creative structure that you've got around your what you eat and how you move your body and how you stretch and how you stay mobile and how you stay nimble and all that, that is art. That is an artistic expression. Like staying within those creative structures and engaging in those experiments is absolutely an artistic expression. That's your physical body. The fourth area, so first three were social, emotional, and physical. The fourth is financial. So looking at your money, your income, your outflows, your investments, and being able to look at, there's a quote I like from John Wesley, one of the founders of Methodism, the Methodist Church. He did a sermon at some point in his career, and I love that quote: "Earn all you can, save all you can, give all you can." Because except for a very small group of people that actually do feel call um, on their life from something bigger than themselves or from their view of life, that they need to live as an ascetic or live in very purposeful poverty. Generally, most of us are not called to that. Even if you are called to that, that is your art, whatever that is. But as we in Gen Pop can embrace the idea that we're called to earn all we can, save all we can, give all we can, then that again gives us kind of this creative structure to figure out money is a tool. I think it's Ken Honda, who's a multimillionaire, writes a lot of books, wrote a book called Happy Money that I'm reading right now. He encourages us to think about money as a circuit, that it's coming into us and flowing out. And actually, one of the affirmations that I like to use about money as I'm exercising is that reminding myself that I'm called by God to kind of reach into the endless flow of money and then to redirect those funds in ways that are helpful, in ways that are artistic. Because since money is a circuit, since money is kind of this ever flowing stream, you can dip your bucket in and you can pull it out and you can put money towards that family that had a catastrophe but didn't have enough insurance funds to pay for someone's medical treatment or to pay for a house to be rebuilt or to pay to get a car replacement. You can redirect some of those funds from the pool of money to help provide stability and structure for your family, or for the people close to you. You can redirect money from that endless stream to, say, the period project, because in the United States, keep in mind that there is no federal funding that specifically goes towards period supplies. Isn't that awesome? And so there are some laws in some states and municipalities, but there's no federal funds that are diverted towards period supplies. Something that affects at least half of the population. And we're on our own. I get angry about that like every time my period is about to come, which is due in the next like 24 hours. So uh, look up periodproject.org. There are other organizations that also help distribute period supplies, but that's one that I know of that's active in my local area. But I can reach into the endless stream of money and help redirect some of that towards the period project. And so, and also looking at how you can be creative in how you earn money, how you bring money in. Again, that can be part of your art. That can be part of your artistic expression. Something flashed on my screen, but I assume we're okay. All right. Um, okay, the next area is vocational or job or career. Um, excuse me. Oh my gosh, my voice. Okay, so, and I kind of love this area because I am a Christian of the Lutheran style and kind of slowly working my way towards finishing my education so I can be a pastor, in the ELCA, be a Lutheran pastor someday. Here's hoping. But I really love kind of Martin Luther's understanding of vocation. And I think that informs a lot of how I think about the work that I do and the work that other people do. In that Martin Luther, at the time that he was a monk, um, kind of the understanding of vocation at that point is that if you had a calling from God to be an identified religious leader, specifically a priest, or a monk, that your vocation was so much more important than anyone else's vocation. But he really expanded that to say that any vocation is important. Any vocation, I would say as a Christian, any vocation that allows someone dignity, that allows someone to earn uh, what should be a fair wage, anything that helps them live out their personal gifts in the world, like that is a wonderful vocation that's blessed by God. So, a custodian, whether you are a teacher or a doctor, all of those vocations are valid and wonderful and should be allowed the opportunity to earn a living wage. Um, excuse me. And all of them are ways in which you can use your gifts, um, again, I would say as a Christian, in service to God, but those are all ways that you can use your particular set of skills, um, for the good of yourself, for the good of your family, for the good of your community, and the good of the wider world. And that is absolutely an artistic expression. So how you view your vocation, how you live out your vocation, your job, your career, the work that you do with the talents that you have, um, that is all absolutely artistic expression. Okay, the next one is intellectual, using your brain pan. And there's so many ways that you can use your intellect for your art. And I would wager to say that most artists, kind of when they are most deeply in their state of flow when it comes to their art, whether it's in practice or performance or refining a technique or learning a technique, that they are combining kind of this flow state, this spiritual experience with their intellect. And that there may be times that your intellect is not as keyed in, but I would say that it's always present. It's never fully turned off, which is a wonderful thing because your intellect can be what helps you connect different ideas together. Your intellect can be what helps you interact with other people to access all of this knowledge. It's there's an idea, a kind of a secular concept known as the matrix of support. Kind of this idea that, to a certain degree, kind of ties into universal consciousness and the idea that kind of all of us have access to all knowledge. But in a more like temporal, in a more physical way, the matrix of support kind of points to, my notepad. Everyone involved in the making of this notepad and getting it to me, that they were using their intellect and their intellectual abilities to help support me. Like, and that I can, and that when I think that things are dark or drear for me personally, I can remember about the matrix of support, and I can just look at this notepad and remember that all the people involved in getting this notepad to me all did this for my good. I probably will never meet any of them that had any direct impact on getting this notepad to me, or this phone, or the tripod that my phone is on, or these glasses. You know, there's so many things that we can look at just in our physical world where someone used their intellectual gifts to make that happen in the most efficient way possible, and that we can tap into saying, hey, that person, those people, those infinite numbers of people supported me, and I can support them also by using my intellectual gifts and the art that it lets me create, however that may look, to make the world a better place, to make the world a more compassionate place, to bring about ultimate justice and peace and kindness. And so just being able to use our intellectual gifts in all of our artistic pursuits, something really important to remember. The next area is spiritual. And again, as I said, kind of I am a Christian. And so I always speak about this kind of in Christianese terms. And I try to also speak of spirituality in a way that I am not one to say that someone needs to be a Christian or believe in God at all to have a spiritual life. I would say that that is part of our humanness, that we have some kind of spiritual component that can tap into something bigger than ourselves, um, and tap into, that the idea of the matrix of support, that we can receive support and give support to others. And so, however your spiritual life is shaped, being able to look at that as part of the work of art of our lives, that being able to tap into something bigger than ourselves, being able to acknowledge something beyond, kind of what's happening 2 inches away from my face or my body right now, that there's more going on that we can contemplate, that we can never know fully, but that we can explore. And being able to explore that spiritual side, whether it's in church or in a mosque or in a synagogue or in a religious meeting or an atheist church or in an identified religious meeting or in nature or in community or, having sex or having a great meal with someone or driving down a long highway, however it is that we can tap into kind of that spiritual expression where we can give and receive that information and that love and that joy. All of that is part of our artistic expression. Excuse me. Water break. Is everybody staying hydrated out there? Hope you're doing all right. So I am not much of a runner, but I am training for my first ever Spartan race. Hopefully, I can make that happen if I stay uninjured. It'll be in early August. But many, many years ago, when I first got into running at all, happen if I stay uninjured. It'll be in early August. But many, many years ago, when I first got into running at all, I got dehydrated once, and it took me out for like a week and a half. So ever since then, try to drink. In theory, I try to drink like 3 of these a day. Um, Usually I get pretty close. So make sure you hydrate. Um, as I always used to tell my campers, I've worked with like church youth groups and at church camps a lot over the years, and I'd always tell my campers, and I tell people this now: if you're feeling ill at ease, uh, drink water, eat fiber, get some sleep, and get some movement. Water, fiber, sleep, movement. And I'd also say like prayer, meditation. If you can do those couple of things, usually you can get yourself at least even keeled enough to figure out what you need to do next. Water, fiber, sleep, prayer, meditation, movement. Do those 5 things and kind of recalibrate yourself. Little hint for life. I've been telling people that for like 20 odd years, which, good grief. Okay, so I turned 46 at the end of May. It is still shocking to me that there are folks that were, teenagers when I was a camp counselor, and like I'm friends with some of them on social media, or some of them find me on social media, and they are talking about their like young children, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're like 15. It's like, no, you're not. You're like 30. Does anyone else have that feeling? Like you see the young people that you've known for a long time, and like they're stuck in your head as like, you haven't graduated from high school yet. No, have had a full out adult, you know, bill paying job for 10 years. Time marches on. All right, so there's one more kind of area, life area to review. There's social, emotional, physical, financial, vocational, intellectual, spiritual, and the last one, this is kind of one that I added on, fun or adventure. Because for me, fun and adventure, this is kind of one that I added on, fun or adventure. Because for me, fun and adventure, I discovered this. Fun and adventure is one of my like top values in my life. Value is love, and fun and adventure usually comes at two or three. Um, and this is super important because for a very long time, I noticed in myself, and I noticed in coaching clients, I noticed in people that kind of I knew, friends, family, whomever, work associates, that if you cannot have fun, then it is very hard to make any kind of progress in anything. That it is that a big part of making forward progress, a big part of moving any of the levers of your life is being able to get yourself into and stay in a relaxed state. And it is nearly impossible to feel that you are having fun and adventure unless you are also able to feel a sense of safety. Take a roller coaster, for example. If you are so terrified of roller coasters, either of like roller coasters or heights, or of that roller coaster in general, because you're like, this roller coaster was 300 miles away from here, in a different carnival last night, and here it is now, and I'm not sure that they all use the right socket wrenches putting that thing together, because that seems really rattly as people are coming down that pike. Whatever reason, if you are faced with a roller coaster and you don't feel that it's safe, your heart will beat, your pupils will dilate, you'll feel sweaty, but you won't feel that in a fun way. You'll feel that in a scared way. If you can look at that roller coaster and you're like, oh yeah, looks safe, but you won't feel that in a fun way. You'll feel that in a scared way. If you can look at that roller coaster and you're like, oh yeah, looks safe, I'm excited, let's do this, you may have the same physical symptoms. Heartbeat elevated, pupils dilated, sweaty, but because you have that sense of safety, you feel that sense of fun and adventure. And a big thing that I work with my coaching clients with is to help them cultivate a sense of internal safety that they can take along with them wherever they go, so that then they can cultivate a feeling of fun and a feeling of adventure. Because when you have that feeling of fun and adventure, again, heartbeat, sweat, uh, may have a little trouble catching your breath, but when you have the tools to help your brain interpret that as fun, then you don't get locked up in your body or in your mind, and you're unable to take action. If you can bring the fun, you can bring the adventure, you can bring the safety with you to those tasks, then it makes it so much easier. And it's so much easier to integrate it into your identity that these are the things that I do. This is the kind of person that I am. These are the kind of tasks that this person does. And I find them fun and adventurous. And again, we're mature people around here. Like, we realize that like not everything is going to be like a barrel of laughs all the time. But in general, if you can overall find building your relationships, building your social life, building your intellectual life, doing the things for your job or your career or your vocation, like all the other things, building your financial life, doing all the other 7 things on your life area list, The more you can bring a sense of fun and adventure to them, the more you are likely to engage in the art of those things and the art of creating fun and adventure for yourself and for other people. The fun and adventure is kind of a linchpin for all the others, because think of it this way. If you are working to get your financial outflows under control, and you're trying to figure out, like, am I following the overall vision for my life with the way that I'm spending my money, with the way I'm allocating my money, with the way I'm saving or investing my money, the way I'm using my money after it comes into me? Am I completing that circuit? I'm breathing in income. I need to breathe out outflow. If that feels like a drudge and a chore, excuse me, and feels painful, you're not going to like it. And you may do it, but you're going to burn out your nervous system, and it's going to feel like a monumental task. It may be a monumental task that you can push yourself over, but the art of doing it and feeling at ease with it and being able to do it as an art form and as something that is liberating to you and beneficial to you is to bring that sense of safety into your finances and be able to have fun and adventure as you're looking at your outflows. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so again, the 8 areas of your life, and kind of we went over some ways to bring art into all of those ideas. Is your social life, your emotional life, your physical life, your financial life, your vocational life, your intellectual life, your spiritual life, and your fun and adventure life. Let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, doing pretty good. All right, I am right on schedule. And again, hope you're hydrating. Um, the next thing, as you're looking at those 8 life areas, something that a lot of my clients find incredibly helpful is and part of the reason I want people to look at all 8 of these areas is because the human brain is geared to look for disaster. And our modern brains can't easily distinguish between a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger or a dinosaur, or not dinosaur, but some large, violent, toothy creature running at us, threatening us. Our brain does a really good job of thinking that everything that's new, everything that's different is that level of threat, that you are being chased down by a polar bear and you are in imminent danger anytime something different comes up. And because of that, because your brain is geared to look for disaster and it does this job very well, very often when you look at your life, it can be easy to see the things that are going wrong and the things that you don't like and the things that feel like, oh, I haven't been able to make progress in this in so long. Like, oh, this has been a problem for so, like, I have said that I'm going to fix this every Monday for the past 6 weeks or the past 6 months or the past 6 years, or the past 6 decades. And so a big reason why I want people to look at the 8 areas of your life is because when you actually sit and look at them, you will see that there are areas that you are doing better at that you are not giving yourself credit for. There are areas that you have made progress in that you have ignored. And especially if you're part of my community, you probably are doing it because you have a tendency to move the goalposts on yourself. So raise your hand if you have seen yourself do that. If you have hit a goal, couldn't even let yourself celebrate because, oh, I should have done that sooner, or oh, I should have done it better, or oh, I should have been more successful, or oh, I should have set my goal higher. You find some reason to discount the progress that you've made because you keep moving the goalposts on yourself. I know a lot of you are probably, at least metaphorically, raising your hands. Um, uh, because I know my people, because I do that too. And so I want you to think of your life as a barrel, like a wooden barrel, those old-timey barrels, um, with like the metal bands around the top and the bottom to hold the wood together. Those wooden pieces, those wooden slats are called staves. They're barrel staves. And so I want you to think about the staves of your barrel, your 8-sided life barrel, and keep in mind that those staves are going to be at different levels. And that remember that a keep in mind that those staves are going to be at different levels. And that remember that a barrel can only hold as much water as its lowest stave, as the stave that is the furthest down. But remember this, that small changes in any area can raise the level of the staves overall. Because it used to be, and you, if you're around my age, I'm 46, you might have heard this like back in your 20s, that I think it was like uh what was it? Strengths Finder, and kind of all of those like if you ever have taken any of those kind of corporatized personality tests, or kind of this is what you're good at in the market in the past, especially in the 90s, early 2000s, those tests would often focus on, okay, look at your lowest level and try to raise it. But now we realize that that wasn't the best advice. That wasn't the best way to go about it. Instead, the best way to go about it, best way to build your art now, is to look at your stays, look at what is going to make the biggest, best way to build your art now is to look at your stays, look at what is going to make the biggest impact overall. Because very often there's something, very often it might be physical. It might be that you are not giving your body enough nutrition, you're not giving yourself enough sleep, you're not doing enough to mitigate your stress level so that your physical body is so jacked up that it just layers this incredible layer of stress over everything else. So definitely look at your physical life. But it could be something else that if you look at the areas where you already can cultivate a sense of fun and adventure and a sense of safety and making forward strides. Make forward strides in that area, or find a way to make those strides in that area out of a sense of fun and adventure. And then that is going to raise the staves on the rest of your barrel. And or when you free up that bandwidth by raising an area that you're good at or that you already feel a sense of safety in, then you'll be able to free up your creativity to come up with some way to get someone else to fix that other area. For example, okay, I am an incredibly messy person. Um, I I come from a uh, in my recent family history, there have been quite a few people that struggle with hoarding tendencies, and I do the same. I am not good at organization. Like I like doing it, but I'm not great at it, especially like closet organization or organizing my uh, my art supplies, or organizing my clothing, or organizing my tools, organizing my baking supplies, any of that stuff. And so I have a sense of fun and adventure and security around other parts of my life. That frees up enough bandwidth for me to go, I'm never going to be able to come up with an organization system that I like for my art supplies. So let me instead find someone else's system and just implement it. Because when I started collecting art supplies in 2020, and uh, I was an essential worker. I was doing basically tech support to pharmacies at the time. So I was still working. So I was stressed out to the max. But I could not, of my own power, figure out a way to organize my stuff. But as I found fun and adventure in other parts of my life, even during that stressful time, I was able to free up enough bandwidth to realize someone else has solved this problem. Someone else has figured out a way to organize a craft room. Let me just find that person, download their PDF, and organize my craft room that way. And so that might be the same for you. It might be that you're saying, okay, I want a more vibrant social life, but I can't figure out how to do it. If you work on the areas that you do find fun and adventure in and safety in, then you can often get some wins, feel good, pump up those happy brain chemicals enough to give yourself additional bandwidth, open up additional lanes on the highway of your brain, so that then you can go looking for resources so that you don't have to rebuild something from scratch. But you do have enough bandwidth to go find a way to raise that barrel stave without you having to find the wood yourself. You might be able to find someone else's plan. I hope that makes some kind of sense. But basically, that if you work on areas that you can already find fun and adventure and safety in, and you can cultivate that sense of fun and adventure and safety. You can carry that over to other parts of your life. So say you feel really solid and you feel a lot of fun, like working on your emotional life, your inner life, and then suddenly your productivity improves, your vocational life improves. You raise one stave, you raise the whole container. Okay. So, Ken, with that, I want you to think about what areas of your life do you feel like are leaking energy right now? What areas of your life do you feel like the barrel stave is just a little lower than it should be? What areas do you feel like if you could make improvement in that area, that it will unleash something within you? It will help free the artist in you to be able to find an artistic, beautiful, efficient, glorious, revolutionary way to raise the other areas of your life. So just think about where you're feeling those energy leaks now and how you can use the victories that you're having in other areas to help strengthen that area. So just think about that. Let me see. Okay. The next part is I want to remind us all to make sure that you're living your values in artistic integrity. I talked about that a little bit before, but look at what your values are for your life. And are you living up to those values in each of those 8 areas? Kind of a metaphor that I like is that your values are like the palette that, or is that right? Paint palette? Yeah. Um, your values are the set of paints that you're painting your life with. Phone did something weird. Oh, oh no, I'm not. Okay. Oh, hang on. TikTok thinks I'm inactive. I don't know why. Okay, I'm back. TikTok knows I'm here. I don't know why I didn't think I was here, but anyway. Um, but your values are the colors, the paint palette that you're using to paint your life. And then your actual art is how you use those colors, how you use those values in your life. And so if you aren't using your values, if you aren't living up to your values in any of your area of your life, it makes it really hard to make any kind of progress in that area. So again, for example, for myself, one of my high values is fun and adventure. And if I don't find things fun, if I cannot find a sense of fun, then I can't move forward in it. If one of your values is community, then if you feel like you're working on your finances or your intellectual life or your physical life, if you feel like you're doing that in isolation, it's going to be really hard for you to make progress because you're not actually living into that value of community. And very often people think that you can't get the feeling that you want until you get to your goal. So going back to, if community is an important value for you and you're working on your physical fitness, your physical life, very often people feel like, oh well, I have to lose weight or gain weight, or I have to get more healthy, or I have um to be worthy of having a community, which is a horrible way to think. Or someone may be thinking, okay, I want community, but I'm going to deny myself community until I hit these physical goals. So I'm going to put off getting this thing that's important to me until I get this goal. That also very often doesn't work. We often end up sabotaging ourselves. We often end up beating ourselves up. Um, and it just doesn't feel good to get it if we're not actually building in community. So instead, I would say that if community is an important value to you, then we need to find ways for you to improve your physical health, improve your physical fitness that involve community. And it could be that you join an online community that's doing meal prep so that you have people to talk about your meal plan with. It could be that you sign up for an exercise class. Could be that you start an exercise class. It could be that you do your meal prep over Zoom with a group of people on the weekend so that you don't feel like you're doing all this meal prep by yourself. It could be that you figure out ways that you can um, go out to eat at restaurants with people so that you can have like group dates or one-on-one dates with people as you're on your eating plan. Like there's so many ways that you can build in community. You just have to make sure that you're accounting for your values as you are on the journey. Don't put off your values and what's important to you until you get to the top of the mountain. If you want something, if you want a feeling, if you want an experience, if you want that kind of artistry in your life at the top of the mountain, you have to bring it up the sides. There is not Amazon Prime, there is not Instacart delivery at the top of the mountain. You have to pack it in your bag and experience it and take it along with you all along your journey for it to be there at the top of the mountain. So I want you to think about this. Where are areas of your life where you're out of alignment? And what are the areas where you're ready to shift, where you're ready to start living out your values now, cultivating those feelings that you want now in your life? What kind of artistry have you been putting off for some time in the future that instead you can start living out now as you're on your path, as you're on your journey? So that's another thing to think about. Okay. The next point is about I want us to normalize that it's going to be messy. Like it's going to be shitty. Um, I think very often uh, people that I work with, myself, um, just kind of observing it, we get really we get really precious about things. And kind of, I talked earlier about how, on this app, at least in my algorithm, seeing a lot of encouragement from other creators and from TikTok themselves to like create content, get on, put things on. And I think the thing is, like all of us are creatives, whether we're putting stuff on this app or we're creative in other venues. It is very difficult for anyone creative to any degree to deal with the messy middle and to deal with the fact that it's going to be cringy. As someone once said, I think it was Les Brown said, anything worth doing is worth doing badly at first. And that is really difficult for any of us that are artistic, that are creative, or are perfectionists or frustrated perfectionists or people pleasers. That is really difficult for us to acknowledge that it's going to be messy. It's going to be bad. It's going to not look good. It's not going to be up to the standards that we think we should have, but that is normal and it's more than okay. That is preferable because the reason that you find it so cringy, the reason you find it so difficult is because there is a version of you that already is doing it well. I really love that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And kind of not to give any spoilers, but kind of the premise of the movie is that there is a woman, Evelyn, who's living kind of a very mundane life. She's not very happy with kind of her marriage or her relationship with her child, or she and her husband run a laundromat that's not doing well financially. And then a multiverse version of her husband kind of intrudes upon her version of the universe and says, "Hey, basically, we need you to be a superhero to keep this encroaching nihilist darkness from overtaking us and killing everybody everywhere, everything everywhere all at once." And through the movie, basically Evelyn is able to fight back against this nihilistic darkness by figuring out how she can tap into different versions of herself and get like martial arts skills from Evelyn in that universe, or uh, pizza tossing skills from Evelyn in that universe, or singing skills from Evelyn in that universe. And that I firmly believe that all of us can tap into different versions of ourselves, and that the version of ourselves that already can do TikToks without worrying about it and can edit them well, the version of us that can do TikToks without worrying about it and can edit them well, the version of us that can go out in public and see someone cute at the produce aisle in the grocery store and strike up a conversation easily. The version of ourselves that can enter into a new certification program without feeling nervous and with a sureness that we're going to be able to pass that class. the version of ourselves that knows that we can embark on that new physical fitness plan and complete it and feel good about it and feel invigorated by it, that there already exists a version of ourselves that knows with surety that we can do this, we can make it happen, but that the version of us right here, right now, ain't so sure and is really not looking forward to the messy middle. And so I encourage all of us to be artists. And part of being artists is to just do things at great volume, to just make a bunch of TikToks. Most of them are going to be crap until they're not. To go and strike up a bunch of conversations. We're going to feel awkward and nervous until we're not. To create an identity for us where we can say, like for myself, um, I have been on a physical fitness run this year, lost 20 pounds so far. Feeling very proud of myself. And the reason I was able to stick to that is because I was able to embrace what I'm doing with my eating plan and my exercise plan as an experiment. And that I'm able to define myself as an athlete. And I may be an athlete who is a little injured and can't work out all the way, but I'm still an athlete. I may be an athlete who um, gained weight this week, but and can't work out all the way, but I'm still an athlete. I may be an athlete who um, gained weight this week, but I'm an athlete, so I can figure that out. I may be an athlete who missed a couple of workouts, but I'm still an athlete, so I'm going to get. I can embrace the messy middles of workout plans that are feeling uncomfortable or having to get up earlier so that I exercise in my shed of sweat outside that isn't climate controlled, so I have to get up super early to exercise, which I've been avoiding, I will admit. But I'm an athlete who's missed a string of workouts, but I'm still an athlete, so I'm going to get back to the shed in the morning. I'll check back in with that, and exercise again. Oh my gosh, workout time's going to be so early. Oh my gosh. Okay, anyway, but um we need to embrace the artistic endeavor of the messy middle, of the cringy parts, of being an artist who the messy middle, of the cringy parts, of being an artist who revises what we do, who resets what we do frequently mistakes. We need to embrace that artistic mindset with all of these things as we're working to grow, as we're working to move, as we're going into the next phase of our lives. Um, and that's a and I gotta say, like, as someone who was above average height and weight pretty much from birth, um and oh, um that it has been incredibly empowering for me to be able to embrace that, again, just speaking about my physical fitness, that it's gonna be messy. Um, it's gonna be messy for a very long time because as I keep pushing myself and doing new workout programs and looking and refining what I eat and what I eat at home and what I eat if I'm out and um, how I treat uh, kind of uh, weeks where I gain weight and I wasn't expecting to, kind of all of that stuff involved with like improving my physical fitness, being able to stop stopping. Like I um, call myself the stop stopping specialist because I, like a lot of people, found it very easy to make goals and like schedule into my uh, using this notebook right now for kind of my monthly and quarterly planner. Um, Being able to write out like what workout I'm doing and how far I'm running and what obstacles I'm working on for my Spartan race and all that stuff. But then uh, I would often get, to day three and just kind of fall off the wagon and be like, okay, I'll start again next Monday. Um, and I'd start again, maybe get to day five and then stop. And then like, okay, I'll start again. I won't start next Monday. I'll give myself a little extra time. I'll start at the beginning of next month. I just kept starting and stopping and starting and stopping and starting and stopping. But now, as I've been embracing my new identity and this new spirit of experimentation and this new spirit of my physical fitness is part of my artistic work of my life, that has been what's helped me stop stopping and to quit being such a perfectionist and to look forward to the experiments that I'm doing about like What workouts do I want to do? Like, what time of day works best? What mix of workouts works best? If my aging, creaking bones, you know, um, what mobility exercises do I need to add in? What foam roll, how many times do I need to foam roll a week to make sure that I can get up and keep going the next day? How do I need to eat to fuel myself to be able to keep going? And so again, that is why I help ambitious women stop stopping, because momentum is a masterpiece, and being able to create that momentum and keep going and keep experimenting and helping women stop catastrophizing anytime that they hit an interruption, or anytime they do stop, or anytime that they pause, helping women see that it's not a catastrophe, that you don't have to stop, that you can keep going, that you're not searching for perfection, you're searching for excellence. And excellence only comes when you experiment. And most of your experiments are not going to work. Most of them are not going to turn out the way you want, but they're going to give you data to help you pursue excellence, to help you keep moving forward, and to help you stop stopping so you can build that masterpiece of momentum. All right. So, haha, we made it to an hour. Okay, just in time. As my throat is about to go on protest and be like, girl, go to bed so you can work out in the morning. But just kind of as my closing, thank you so much for being part of this live and watching. Um, uh, Appreciate kind of all the hearts, appreciate all the interaction. Hope that I've given you something to think about. And I want you to remember that your work is your art. Your life is your art. Your life is your masterpiece, and that you deserve to shape it with intention, not just survive it, not just plod through it. You deserve to be able to define yourself as an artist and as a work of art yourself. So there are a couple ways that people can work with me. I've got a couple of spaces left for one-on-one coaching. If you're interested in that, just send me a message with the word finish, and I'll send you some information on my one-on-one coaching. I'm also starting my wait list for the Momentum Method, which is my group coaching program. I'll be launching that in a couple of months. So if you're interested in that, you can message me with the word momentum, and I'll give you some more info on that. Um, Also, I do have a short course called Unstoppable You. If you want to get a taste as to how I work, kind of what I do, it's a recorded course. I'm really proud of it. A lot of people have gotten really good feedback on it. Basically, it gives you kind of a appetizer of what I do to help you stop stopping and help you make your momentum into a masterpiece and help you hit your goals and make art out of your life. If you're interested in Unstoppable You, just send me a message with the word power. So again, one-on-one coaching, send me a message with the word finish. Unstoppable You, send me a message with the word power. Unstoppable You is on special right now. It just costs $7. Small investment. And I'll send you a private invite to those items. Um, Also, if you're I've also got a couple of free discovery calls, the 45-minute calls. They're available if you want to kind of look at what of the 8 areas in your life may need some attention. It has some of those calls available in my bio. If you look at the link in my bio, some of the there's some spaces for discovery calls available there. I apologize for my mush mouth. I've had it all my life. Served me well when I play trombone, but not when I'm speaking. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I hope that your July is going beautifully well. I'm so glad to see all of y'all here. Uh, and remember, you are already awesome. Now's the time to live it out. Have a great day, y'all. Bye for now.